Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is your host, Leah Richheimer. Ladies, we are in Chapter 7. We're on page 165 in Marriage Secrets, and we are talking about appreciation and getting your appreciation bucket filled. Today is my favorite method. Okay, it's the method number 6, and it's my favorite method. And for other people, gifts. It's called the gift method. Okay, has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to take it personally. No. Okay, ready? Strategy number 6: the gift method. Some women respond particularly well to gifts. For those who do, when a husband hands them a present, they feel like he truly understands all that they go through to manage their lives well. If gifts speak to you in this way, it's very important to know this about yourself. And for you, it's extremely important that you get gifts on a regular basis so that you don't feel underappreciated. Others can't relate to this method at all. So if this is not your thing, by the way, my editor made me put this in there because she thought this was the weirdest thing ever. She's like, what? I can't tell you. But then I did it with hundreds of people, and they're like, Leah, it changed my life. Okay, so listen up. Others can't relate to this method at all. So if this is not your thing, you can skip this method altogether. But even though it might rub some people the wrong way, I still teach this method because so many women, myself included, for those on the podcast, I just pointed to myself. Because so many women report back that this gift giving strategy has put a newfound bounce in their step. It's not the stuff that they get as much as feeling like their husband really cares that makes them feel special. For those of you who like this method, we do have a strong tradition about gifts. It starts with God himself bestowing jewelry on Chava in the Garden of Eden before presenting her to Adam. Hashem also provided the women with jewelry that came down with the man in the wilderness. Further, the Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, in the discussion of the rules for rejoicing on our holidays, men are instructed to buy their wives new clothes and jewelry before every festival, each husband according to his financial means. The astounding aspect of this tradition is that a woman may not forgo this gift. And there's a source, okay? She cannot say, oh, it's okay, dear, I don't need this gift. She is obligated to accept it. Perhaps Hashem wanted to mandate the giver-receiver dynamic in this way, but this points to our strong Masorah for receiving gifts. Here's how it's done. Go shopping. This is a very fun part of this. Okay. Go shopping and buy a dozen small gifts for yourself. Even tiny gifts suffice, as you will see. Put them in a box or bag for your husband to give you over time. This might feel awkward at first, but after the initial apprehension, it can work wonders to fill your appreciation bucket. The first thing you might notice is that your husband is surprisingly happy to be relieved of this onerous task of biting his nails as he tries to pick out something you will like. We all know that feeling of wondering, should I be honest and tell him how much I dislike it or fake it and wear something that looks awful on me? This method avoids all these issues. An appreciation gift should be more like a token, not something of great value. Ideas might include very inexpensive items like candies, a fun pink pen, a new floral towel, a mug, or other household items. Or, if your budget allows for it, little candy dishes, books, chocolates, kitchen gadgets, or even a little note saying, coupon to favorite restaurant. For so many people, finances are extremely tight, but even hinting in the grocery store about a juicy peach and having your husband buy it for you can make you feel wonderful. One way you might try to explain this to your husband is to sit him down and tell him that you are just starting to realize how much gifts of appreciation mean to you. That even though it may seem silly to him, it sure is an easy way to make you feel loved. It is also helpful to let him know that this is a known method that has been successful in many marriages. Tell him in order to make this new project easier for him, you will be the one to buy the small gifts. And that way, he will have a guarantee that you will like them. Maybe also mention that this will likely save money since you will be happy with a token gift, but he'd probably feel like a cheapskate spending so little. This gift-giving plan also extends to birthdays and anniversaries, with the added advantage that you're not likely to forget the dates. A husband can either give these gifts when he thinks you need appreciation, or you can tell him that you could use a little appreciation at the moment, hint, hint, or he can give the gifts regularly, perhaps every week right before Shabbos. It might take some trial and error to figure out how to get the gifts from him to you, but it will fall into place. Cut him a lot of slack for forgetting that the gifts are even there. Remember, he is appreciation challenged. Most importantly, show a lot of gratitude for each and every gift when he hands it to you. You may think that if he didn't choose the gift himself, it won't feel as good to get it. You're in for a treat. Try this once. Do you know how pleasant it is to get something you really like? And do you know what a relief it is for a husband to give you something he knows you really like? It takes all of the stress out of the situation, and it allows your husband to give fully and you to receive fully with no reservations. This whole idea often sounds corny to my students until they try it one time. The secret to all of this is reframing your mind to feel your husband's love and appreciation without the element of surprise being necessary or even desirable. Okay, ladies, the gift giving. Here we go. Okay, what's our first question there, Gila?
Okay, so Ahuva asks, these methods have been working really well, and I love feeling so appreciated. However, my husband and I are still struggling with maintaining shalom bayis. Is shalom bayis just always a challenge to maintain, regardless of me feeling appreciated?
Right. So there's many aspects. And, as you know, we have, 13 chapters that go through all of the different various things. So it could be that, you're getting the appreciation you need, but you're not giving your husband the respect he desperately needs, or you're not giving him control that he desperately needs. Or it could be that, you never really worked out good communication tactics. So when there's a conflict, which there is every day, every other day, sometimes 10 times a day. Okay. So when a conflict comes up, if you haven't had a good plan and practice, it really hurts me when we're in the middle of, an important discussion and you walk out of the room. If you don't say that and he just does it and you're just mad for the rest of the day and there's tension all day and you don't talk to him and you play silent treatment and, a million things can go wrong in a relationship if you're not paying attention and working on it and figuring out a plan. So on this particular instance, I'm just talking about communication. So if you have bad the conflict comes along and you have bad communication about it, you don't know how to get yourself back to harmony. It doesn't matter how much appreciation you're going to get. There's still going to be that disconnect, that lack of closeness. So all of these things need to be tried in conjunction with each other. You need to just a little work on this one, a little work on that one, and you're working on shalom bayis and all these different fronts, these different areas. But the main thing is your heart. As long as your heart is determined to work for shalom bayis and to make that like the top priority of your life. If you do that, then a lot of things will happen. Like if you're davening that you should have shalom bayis, you're working on it, you're thinking about your appreciation needs, you're thinking about giving him the control he needs, you're thinking about all these things, and you're working hard for shalom bayis, God himself will swoop down and he'll be like, I will help you. He will help you. He will walk you through. He will hold your hand. He will help you accomplish this. Whereas if you didn't have shalom bayis as your number one priority in your life, then, you have a conflict with your husband you aren't resolving, but, your kid needs, new shoes. So you go to 14 stores to buy him shoes and forget about shalom bayis. It's like you might do great in getting the shoes, which are inconsequential and no effect, as much effect on your olam haba, on your world, on your reward in this world. Okay, they won't have as much effect. They have some effect because you're doing a chesed, an act of kindness for your child who you're solely responsible for. So it's a beautiful thing buying the shoes. But if you're neglecting shalom bayis, doesn't matter how many pairs of shoes you go out and buy and how many other things you do. And, I ran this organization and we raised all this money for this other charity, but you're not focusing on shalom bayis. What's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like the Yetzer Hara is attacking you with all this other stuff to avoid the hard work that it might be. Look, it has a lot more God's help. So maybe it's not that hard, but to make the effort, maybe you have to do introspection to see why you can't receive love from your husband. Maybe you need to sit down and have unpleasant, uncomfortable conversations with your husbands about husband about how to end conflicts. That every time there's a conflict that comes up, you've got that, you're, like that, So you need to have a plan. What are we going to do next time a conflict comes up? How are we going to solve it? Oh, we can't figure this out ourselves. Let's go ask somebody, a third party, a therapist, a rabbi, like that. So the point I'm making to you is that this mission, having a mission for shalom bayis will focus you and, razor sharp to be able to accomplish these things much better. And when you have this feeling that, our shalom bayis ain't so good, you start working on the things little by little by little and getting really, the reason, appreciation is so important is because it's hard to have koyach and strength to work on something when you don't feel appreciated. So it's a very, very beautiful question. I'm with you 100%. I bless you that you should have koyach in this and have understanding and have, the difference between information and insight. Information is data, and insight is something that actually, you once you understand that, your actions kind of follow what your insight, God willing, like once you understand that what your problem is, you're not making shalom bayis the top priority. Now, every little decision you're making throughout the day is altered a little bit better and better and better, God willing, as time goes forward. Okay, good question. Okay, let's go.
Great. So Chevy asks, in the past, when I've been vulnerable with my husband, he has been judgy, and I'm nervous to open myself up to that again. And to add to that question, also, I've heard people say, my husband will respond with, isn't that a wife's job? That's what all women do. It's not anything.
It's two different questions. Okay. Only ask one questions, ladies, because okay, let's just start with the first one. We'll take the second one. Ask that one again, because you're confusing me. Okay. So the first question is judgy. When she's vulnerable, he's judgy. It's such a common thing. Ugh. So this is a communication thing. It's hard because you're saying when you're vulnerable, he's judgy. So now you need to be vulnerable to tell him he's judgy. Like, oh, good luck with that. Not an easy predicament to be. But I think there has to be a conversation going something like, listen, you can tell a little bit about your past. Sometimes it helps a husband to put it in context. You can say something like, when I was little, I used to have, get a lot of criticism for how I felt. So I personally have a hard time being vulnerable and expressing vulnerable. It makes me feel weak. It makes me feel less than. It makes me feel little, so I have a real hard time with being vulnerable. So what I need, I think, when I'm being vulnerable is I need to feel safe. I need to feel like, when I say what my innermost feelings, and I want to be closer to you, as close to you as possible. I want to grow in our closeness every year and more closeness to you. And I know that the way to do that is through vulnerability. And the problem is that, and I don't want to make you feel defensive at all, but the problem is that if you, anytime I'm, show vulnerability, I feel like you get judgy. And I'm sorry to say it. I don't know any other way to say it. I'm not trying to be mean or whatever. And even now I feel so vulnerable because I feel like I'm vulnerable on top of vulnerable. I'm talking about being vulnerable I'm feeling vulnerable talking about being vulnerable. And I think just to try and give us some working a way to work through this, the things that make me feel judgy is after I tell you something vulnerable, you say, well, it shouldn't, you should have done it this way, or why do you feel badly? You're a nice person, or whatever it is. I feel like I'm not necessarily heard, and I really would like to be heard. Again, as you're saying it, I'm not doing a perfect job because some of the things I'm saying would put a husband on defensive. So do it as soft as you can. Take what I am saying and say it as soft as you can, and maybe think back. What are the things that actually came out of his mouth that made you feel judgy? Or was it just he rolled his eyes or, like that? And specifically tell him that. Again, men are very, very good with specific instructions. So if you have an idea of what it is he said that made you feel judgy, maybe you felt judgy before he walked in the room. You have to look at yourself and your past patterns. But let's say, if he is making you feel judged. So if you give him explicit descriptions of what he's doing that made you feel that way, there you go. That's awesome. That way he can do something about it. And tell him, I'm not sure what we can do about this. And again, you're taking the problem, putting it in his hand and saying, how do you think we can solve this? How do you think we can make it so I don't feel so judged? And please don't tell me that the answer is don't. Well, don't. That's not going to work. I tried that. It was a big fail. So what can you do that makes me feel not judged? And then you have a conversation about it. Again, I know, I get it. I'm asking you to do something that you feel scared to be vulnerable, and now you've got to be even more vulnerable. And and I give you a bracha that Hashem should help you with this, because it's a very, very challenging to feel disconnected when you're feeling vulnerable, when you're trying to open yourself up and open your heart up, and it feels rejecting. So good luck with it. Hashem should bench you with it, and just be strong and communicate it as well as you can. And again, do it in a quiet, private time where it's not like, it's 10:30 and you have to be somewhere at 11. He has to be somewhere at 11. Do it at midnight when he doesn't have to be anywhere after. You know what I mean? Like, give yourself time and give yourself space to do it properly. Excellent question. And Gila, can you ask me the other question? Because I now
so the other question was more of the husband not realizing why the wife feels like there's so much appreciation that's needed. Like, doesn't every wife do that?
Oh, isn't that your job? Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. So isn't that your job? So that's actually that's accurate. Say, you could say, it is my job to get all of this stuff done, but without appreciation, I can either do it with appreciation happily, or I can do it with resentment. Do you have a choice? Like when I do it with resentment, it's like, whatever. If I have the appreciation, I'm like, oh, I love doing this for you. It's like a whole different thing. So I think every husband should get that. Very good question. Okay, good. Next.
Okay, so Goldie asks, my husband definitely doesn't know about the new dress and jewelry for Yom Tov rule. How can I tell him about it without him feeling like I'm controlling or just trying to get more stuff out of him?
Excellent question. So the funny thing is, so I remembered this. Of course, I heard that in a shir and it went right in my head and it stayed there forever, right? For 10 years. Now I'm writing Marriage Secrets and I wrote this down, and the rabbis who were looking at it like, excuse me, like, no, like what, and I'm like, no, I'm positive I heard it. 6 months they searched for what the source was. Okay. Really, whatever. One day I get this call, the book's about to go to print and whatever. I left it in there. This was one of those last minute things we had to figure out. And I get this phone call saying, here's the source. I was like, it was so gratifying. But of course, I'm like, he probably heard it in his lifetime, maybe 10 times, but it wouldn't go like, this is my shield of armor of our Masorah. So, so there definitely is a source for that. And then in terms of controlling for your husband is that it could be that, you say, I heard, guess what I heard in the shir, and you tell them, I heard this thing, and you can quote it from chapter 7, whatever. We just read it. It should be around page 165 or let's see. I don't know. I'd have to find it, but somewhere around page 165, give or take, you can find the actual quote and say, this is a thing. And this is a minhag of Klal Yisrael, a custom of Klal Yisrael. I think it would really, really make me feel special. It'd make me feel like, Yom Tovim are very, very challenging for for many women. I mean, some people breeze through and they have it down and they've got their lists and they just whatever. But for most women, it's like, oh, Shavuos is coming up. Oh, Pesach. Well, Pesach, that's a whole other conversation. But, whatever. It's like there's a, who am I inviting? What am I cooking? What did I do last year? Oh, yeah, I didn't bake the things before the thing. Oh, yeah, I froze the challahs beforehand and whatever it is, it's usually this time, beautiful, satiating. When we light those candles and we go into the yontif, we're glad, we're thrilled, we're happy, but the build up to it is often very challenging. And if you explain to your husband, say, I think the reason that this is part of our Masorah so for women get gifts is because at least I know on that first night in Rosh Hashanah, I'm wearing that new dress and I got to shop. It's like I got to go get a new sheitel, or I got to get jewelry, or I get to get, a new pair of shoes, something. There's something for all the work and effort and emotional strain that a woman goes through. I mean, it's like a yoke on her back. She loves the yoke. She wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Okay. But there's something light about having something to look forward to. Now, some women can't relate to this all. They don't like to shop. They don't like stuff. They don't like whatever, I get it. That's fine. That's still, your husband still has to get you something. So I would ask a rabbi, like, I've got enough clothes to give, and I've got enough jewelry. I've got enough, whatever. Call me if you have extras. No, but, but anyway, they have enough stuff. But that still doesn't, it says you can't mavater. You can't say, oh, it's okay, I don't need it. So maybe ask a rabbi, say, I have everything I need, and my husband just get me flowers for Yontif. Is that considered enough of a gift? Unless he gets you flowers every week, which then I think a rabbi would probably say, no, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not paskening, but I'm just saying that, I don't, I would ask, if you feel like, oh, I don't need it, I would ask what you can do differently. Very good questions, ladies.
Okay. Abby asks, my husband and I are working on being less materialistic and simplifying our life. Even though I do love getting gifts, I think this method would diminish this goal we're working towards. Isn't it a Torah value to not be materialistic and to have only what we truly need? Any thoughts?
Very good. So there is a lot of sources that a woman likes jewelry and gold and things like that. I don't know that there's about not being materialistic. Now, there's materialism in the secular, world, in the Western society or whatever, that the more, the better and whatever. So that's for sure not a Jewish value, but there's nothing wrong with having nice things and nice whatever, as long as you're paying your 10% tzedakah money and you're very serious about that. And if you're well-to-do, to try and bump it up to 15% or 20%. I think 20% might be the max unless you ask a rav. But, if you're giving a lot of tzedakah and you're doing a lot of, and that includes giving a lot of your time for free also, and you're doing, then there's nothing wrong with having, material things. As far as I know, you could ask, I looked into this a little bit personally. No, just wondering, what it was very interesting. I felt like I had reached a place in my life where I felt like, I don't need, like there was a time where I want this, I want that, on a lector, and then I got candles, beautiful, whatever, everyone has their things that they have that they want. And I went to a Rav and I said, I think I'm okay, but my husband, I like jewelry. My husband buys me jewelry and I think I'm okay. And she said, Mrs. Richheimer, you need to receive the jewelry because your husband needs to give it. I'm like, whoa. There's been your routine for so many years, and this is what your husband does. But it was such, like, I couldn't believe that was his answer. And not only that, there's been so much jewelry since he said that, so many that, nothing expensive, pretty little, whatever. It doesn't have to be a fortune or whatever. Something for $30 satisfies me, $50, and the occasion, the hundreds, whatever. But it's like, I'm not one of these people who needs a $10,000 whatever. I'd be frightened to wear it, but these, little things mean something to me. And there's been a lot of jewelry since, and there's something when my husband hands me something that I've picked out, that we picked out together. We go to Eretz Israel and we go into little shops and whatever, we feel good because we're giving money to Israel. And we, and then we come home with 6 little boxes and, and I can't wait to get something. And I know I like them because I picked them. And then sometimes I forget which one's in what's in them. It was I'm like, where do we get them? Was this from Israel? That was whatever, again, we don't go like these fancy schmancy, we go reasonable, and so the wisdom of that Rav who told me that, both for my husband's needing to give it and for the pleasure I've gotten over the years since he said, all the years, but particularly since he said that, and I realized even though I don't need it, it fills my appreciation bucket, and it's just pleasurable. And then my kids look at something like, oh, Daddy picked that for you, wink, wink, wink. Yeah. So anyway, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so don't feel bad about it. It's a very beautiful thing, and again, ladies, remember, these all are to try. Go home and try these different methods. You'll find what fills your heart, what fills your appreciation bucket. And, and it's work to get your husband to agree to whatever the one is. And, but you'll see when you practice this for a while, there's a little level of contentment that's available. And that'll give you the koyak and the strength to work on the other hard things I'm telling you to do, like give your husband a respect when you're so upset you can't even think, give him control when you are so positive that his answer is incorrect. You're positive it was the wrong decision, but you're giving him that covet and you're giving him that, letting him have that control. And guess what? At the end of the day, you look back and you're like, why was I so certain that the car he wanted to buy was the wrong one, or the decision to go here was the wrong thing? Let him have control, and then he'll turn and bend his ear to you. But doing all these hard things is much easier when your appreciation bucket is filled. Thank you for being with me. Stay tuned. We're still going to finish up chapter 7, and we are going to go through, and I'm getting you homework right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, so if you've tried a little bit the first 5, but number 6 is gift giving. So go shopping. That's your homework for the week. Go shopping. You can buy something for $4, a potato peeler that has a special handle that's, whatever, I don't know, whatever you would, when you're shopping and you're like, oh, that's really stupid. That's out of budget. That's out of whatever. Just spend a little bit of money with you. Again, it doesn't have to be super expensive. Again, if you're on an extremely, extremely tight budget, you're going to buy food. So instead of buying the cheese that, is, $2, is there cheese for $2? I don't know. Instead of buying the cheese for $2, you buy the one for $3. You know what I'm saying? And have it be from your husband. You find ways to just get these little sweet things in life. If you're a gift person, those things can mean the world to you. Okay. And to me. Okay. Lots of love. This is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next time. If you want more, we have so much more. If you want to learn our Masorah and have an awesome marriage, the first thing we have is a foundations course. It's a 13-week course. You get all your questions answered. It's live with me, and you can ask Q&A. It's awesome. Second thing we have is a coaching program. If you are awesome with people and you want to know the Masorah better than 99% of the people on the planet Earth, like for reals, okay? It's a 4-month program. It's very intense. We have major scholarships, and we have somebody who's granted in a lot to pay for a big bulk of it. It's still a little expensive, but for what you get, and then you can start charging money to know it. That's the coaching program. Don't miss it. Go to www.ladiestalkshow.com. Look up the foundations course, look up the coaching. We do retreats, we do all kinds of stuff. You'll find it there. www.ladiestalkshow.com. Thanks for being with us. Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show.